Say what you want about the Curry line, it's consistent. What's up guys, welcome back to the official WearTesters YouTube channel. My name is Jackson and today we have a performance review on these bad boys right here. It's the Under Armour, well, Curry brand, Curry 11. This is Steph Curry's 11th signature shoe overall and his 4th signature shoe since forming his own brand under the Under Armour umbrella. And with the introduction of the Curry brand, also came the introduction of Flow technology, which has appeared on each of Steph's signature models since the 8. And that continues here. And since the Curry 8, the line has really focused more on fine tuning rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. And what that has resulted in is a really consistent, high-performing signature line. And there are some changes with the Curry 11. One of the areas where you don't have a lot of change is with the traction. It's flow. The general reputation with flow is that it's killer on clean courts, but once you add a little bit of dust, it becomes awful and unplayable. I disagree with that, and I think that does not do the Curry 11 justice. Because yeah, on clean courts, this is the best traction available, period, end of discussion. But most of us don't play on pristine courts. I certainly don't. But even if you're on like a decently maintained court, you know, as long as you're able to like dry mop the floor before you start playing, I found that the Curry 11 is going to perform as well as anything else on the market, even when you throw some dust into the equation. So as long as you're playing on a court that gets swept regularly, you're not gonna have any issues with the traction. When you get some dust on that outsole, you're gonna have to consistently wipe it off because this is a foam outsole. The dust is going to be attracted to the foam, it's gonna stick to the foam until you physically wipe it off with your hand. Now, where flow really earns its reputation is when you're on a not so well-maintained court. If it hasn't been swept, when there's a lot of dust and debris and dirt and nastiness on the court, yeah, the traction just kind of falls off a cliff. The key thing to remember though is that in those bad situations, most shoes aren't gonna perform very well. It's just that the flow isn't gonna perform at all. So overall, when you're just talking about does this traction perform and can it keep up on whatever court you play on? If there is no dust, yes. If there is some dust, still yes. If there's a lot of dust, no. Just don't do it. The other thing about flow is that it's not as durable as an outsole that uses rubber instead of foam. After a few weeks, I'm already seeing some of that foam on the outsole fraying away. I also had one of my shoes stepped on by a pretty big guy. You know, he kind of came down and like swiped across the front of the shoe like that. And even that kind of made some of that flow foam fray away a little bit. Don't play in them outside because the traction will perform outdoors. It's just gonna get obliterated faster than any other shoe out there. Ideally, you'll be able to have the Curry 11 as part of a rotation with 1 or 2 other shoes. Obviously, the more shoes that you're playing in, the longer the lifespan is gonna be of each of those shoes. But if you can't do that, if you only need one shoe and you need it to last, you know, 6, 9, 12 months, you might wanna look somewhere else. So let's move on to the other aspect of flow, which is the cushion. And that's one of the major changes that has been made from the Curry 10 to the Curry 11. The Curry 11 utilizes a dual density flow setup. So while most of that midsole is the flow that we're used to by now, there is a layer sitting directly underneath the foot that is much softer. As for how it feels, just from a try-on perspective, you really don't notice much of a difference from the Curry 8, 9, 10 to the 11. When you do start to notice it is when you actually start to play. It's not a drastic change, so if you really want like a really bouncy foam, then this still isn't gonna cut it for you. The cushion setup still caters to players who prefer stability and responsiveness over, you know, a lot of bounce. As far as flow cushions go, you know, going back 4 years, this one is the best and the most versatile and the most comfortable. Court feel and stability are still present. The shoe is low to the ground, and because there's no outsole, because you're really just sitting on one piece of foam, I don't know if there really is something to it, but psychologically at the very least, you feel more connected to the floor. And that's one of the things about flow that I really love. The Curry 11 insole is, it's whatever. Let's talk materials. On the past 2 Curry models, you've had a full-on warp upper, you know, full-on warp all over. Well, that's not the case with the Curry 11. They've changed it up. You still have warp on the lateral side. So what does that do? It does provide enough structure, but it also provides a lot of flexibility and a lot of breathability. There's a knit on the medial side. And Under Armour is calling it, hold on. It's called IntelliKnit. At this point, you've probably played in something that is a thicker knit material. That's what this is. And then you've also got some synthetic panels right here over the top of the toe. And I was a bit worried about those synthetic panels right here. They're thick. They're thick.
Giggity giggity.
This guy right here especially, this kind of felt looking material, it's more of like a heat melt material, like heat welded, fused, whatever you want to call it. And then this little dot right here, there's even more of it. It's really solid and it's not as flexible as, you know, the warp or the knit material. It does take a little bit of time to break in, to start flexing the way that you want it to. But once it does, I had no concerns. And actually I enjoyed having something a little bit more substantial in that area of the shoe. It's definitely more durable. So this material over the top of the toe also extends kind of over the eye stay here into the back of the shoe. And yeah, it just kind of is what it is. It's not a great material, but it does the job. So like the cushion, I think this is an improvement from the 9 and the 10 to the 11. It's still lightweight. You still have breathability and flexibility, but this is probably going to be more durable in the long run and a little bit more sturdy and supportive. The tongue material is soft and it relieves a lot of lace pressure. It's fairly thick. There are some cutouts for breathability. Overall breathability on the Curry 11 is going to be above average compared to most of what's on the market. Now onto the fit. This is another one of my favorite parts of the shoe. Under Armour as a whole, I think, does a really good job of just making solid fitting shoes. I've always gotten my true size with Under Armour and Curry brand, and they've always fit extremely well. And the Curry 11 is no exception. If you played in the Curry 10, then these fit the exact same. True to size lengthwise, a little bit snug widthwise, but you're not being suffocated. If you have a wide foot, or you wear an ankle brace, the best course of action, as always, is to try these on in a store. But if you normally go up a half size because you have wide feet, I think you're gonna be just fine here. My feet weren't shifting anywhere. Heel lockdown is perfect, midfoot lockdown is great, forefoot lockdown is great, everything is great.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
And now onto the support, which I also really thoroughly enjoyed because the fit is the foundation for the whole support. And then you got all the other standard features that you would come to expect. Wide base, flat base. You do kind of sit within this midsole, you know, here and here. That traction pattern does extend up onto the medial side forefoot. The midsole also extends up in the heel, partnered with the heel counter, preventing your heel from shifting side to side. The lockdown is gonna be right there. You have a midfoot shank here that extends only through the midfoot, but then you also have kind of a segmented plate up in the forefoot that allows for more stability while also retaining forefoot flexibility, which I absolutely loved. It makes the Curry 11 more flexible in the forefoot than the Curry 10 was. So you were only flexible right here, whereas the Curry 11, you're much more flexible but still stable in the forefoot. So that support is anchored by the fit and complemented by all those little support pieces that come together and make this probably the best Curry as far as support goes. I've played in a lot of Curries and I think this is probably the best. So overall, I loved the Curry 10. I love the Curry 11 more. The Curry signature line really kind of is in its own lane. You know, it's kind of doing its own thing. It knows that it has an audience and it knows who it's making its products for. If you're a shooter, if you're a guard, you're a perimeter player, this kind of has everything that you want. It has stability, it has fit, it has traction as long as your cord is okay. So, I mean, so overall, if you like the Curry models past, you know, the 8, 9, 10, or, you know, the other Under Armour models that have featured flow, you're gonna like these. This will float your boat. I'm still curious to see where Curry brand goes from here. Again, they seem to just be fine-tuning ever so slightly every year. And every year there's a little bit that they're changing. What's the next thing? Can we get a flow outsole that can perform consistently across all court conditions? I don't know. Maybe we can't, but still that's one area that I would like to see more improvement. But anyways, that's about all I have for the Curry 11 performance review. As always, thank you so much for watching and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.